Hi, I'm your moderator Aditi, and I'm thrilled to be joined today by Caroline Schmidt, Vice President, Demand Generation Practices at eDynamic. Caroline is a leader with over 15 years of experience in B2B direct marketing strategies that includes marketing automation, lead nurture, direct, digital, branding, SEO, SEM, social, content, events, and analytics dashboard components. In her overall career, she has worked with various global clients into verticals such as high-tech, management consulting, and financial services. In today's presentation, you will learn how insurance marketers can make the best use of marketing automation to improve marketing effectiveness. And we'll also be having a questions and answer session at the end. So please send us all your questions and we'll make sure to answer them immediately in real time. And now, over to Caroline.
Thank you, Didi. I appreciate the introduction. So, as she mentioned previously, we'll be talking specifically about marketing automation for the insurance industry. I just want to give you a very short background about our company and then progress on to the webinar. So, just a little bit about eDynamic. We're an established digital marketing and technology agency, and we specialize and work across the digital ecosystem that includes marketing automation, obviously what we're talking about today, CMS and website build, analytics, social, data, and mobile. I specifically lead the demand generation practice at eDynamic, and that includes the demand generation strategy, marketing automation, and cloud solutions. As that relates to insurance, eDynamic has extensive experience creating digital solutions for financial services, including clients like New York Life, New Jersey Manufacturers, Liberty Mutual, and Primerica. So my team, specifically all of my market automation, development team, and strategists that work under me have extensive experience in the financial services vertical, and we've worked with several different insurance companies. So have seen quite a bit of this in action, so it's a great experience to talk to you guys about it today. So a little bit more about the services, and eDynamic likes to provide or look at our services as part of a one-to-one marketing methodology. We create personalized experiences across all digital touch points by focusing on the customer journey, integrating technology, creating a simple view of the customer, and delivering data-driven experiences across all customer touch points. So as you can see on this slide, it's across strategy. So specifically what I tend to work on is more of the digital strategy and roadmap, as well as demand generation, across experience design, so across different platforms and devices, technology implementation, marketing automation is what my group, and we also handle some of the other business units as well, and engagement offerings. So providing overall offerings where we do staff augmentation, agency services, or even demand generation centers. So that gives you a little bit of background about us, and what we'll be talking about today is essentially how digital is transforming insurance, what that means for customers and agents and how you address them, moving into marketing automation, you know, for neophytes, what its value is, what its capabilities are, and translating that into how we leverage marketing automation insurance in the insurance vertical. So, and we'll talk about both customers and agents, kind of a view from both sides of your audiences that you typically manage. So for anyone that's here that's not in the insurance sector, you probably won't find this at all fascinating. A lot of the information that I'll be sharing is specific to insurance. A lot of the statistics that we have, specifically campaigns that you might run, are around insurance, and they give kind of practical guidance on a direction that you can go depending on whether you're a beginner, intermediate, or expert company in digital marketing and marketing automation, and also translate that into some specific initiatives that you can you know, potentially run, whether you have marketing automation today, whether you're looking to implement marketing automation and kind of sell that to your executive team and give them some ideas of what you could do. We won't talk about how to implement marketing automation. That could take me all day to do that. Can give you a little bit of a boilerplate on that. And it's not to replace marketing strategy. So I'm specifically talking about what we can do within marketing automation. There's a lot across the digital sphere. So I could get into customer profiles, user journeys, how CMS or CRM integrates with it, but I want to focus today specifically on marketing automation. So the kind of the first stop in what we'll be talking about today is really digitalization in the insurance industry and how the marketplace is changing. So, in general, the marketplace is changing overall, but specifically about how that relates to insurance. Really very, very high level, first of all, and we've all seen this, right? So what we look for and what we've done as consumers has changed a lot since I started marketing 15, 20 years ago. It was very campaign driven, you're very static, you're looking at one marketing campaign for everybody in your database versus what's going on today, which is there's a large shift in how customers interact, and they expect a seamless journey. So when you go visit a website, you expect that company to understand something about you. I sit at home with a smartphone, a tablet, and my laptop all sitting there. So I pretty much go interchangeably between all of those different systems. So I'm very informed. I know what's going on. I have information at the touch of my fingers, and I can find out anything pretty quickly through the Google machine. So that is, looking at myself and looking at the industry, it's not much different, right? So we think about where we're at, where we're looking to go. Like I said, there's so many different ways that we can communicate with customers right now, and there's an expectation that customers, that voice from us is, one voice across all of those channels, across all of those devices. And, we've got to figure out how to cut through the noise, because there are so many ways to talk to a customer now. You've really got to look at, what's out there and how do you focus a customer on your offers. Customers now expect brands to anticipate their needs and deliver experiences across multiple channels where they can interact with brands on their own terms. In insurance, the customer buying process is shifting to digital, and carriers need to be prepared for this shift. So just looking at, I pulled a couple of statistics from Bain just to give you an idea. These are a year old, so I'm sure everything's shifted a little bit, but this recent survey is over approximately 160,000 consumers in 18 countries. And what they found is that digitally active customers range from 35 to 70% within those countries. And then over the next 3 to 5 years, 79% of those consumers said they will use a digital channel for insurance interactions. If you look at the U.S. there, it's at 80% between where they were maybe a year ago, where they're expected to be this year and into the future. So, one of the big companies within the digital industry, Gartner, says that insurance that don't offer, online and mobile interaction points for their customers could potentially lose 25% of their market share, and they reference specifically to 2015. So it'll be interesting to look back next year and see, how those statistics have changed or whether they hold up to what we expect. And then what I mentioned before, right? So it's across channels. Looking at your hybrid customers and your digital-only customers, you've got 80 to 83% of insurance customers that use multiple channels. And, essentially Sirius Decision estimates that 67% of this is done before they ever reach an insurer. So there's quite a bit that you won't have influence on as an insurer unless it's to a general broad category. So, there's lots of opportunities for us to interface with consumers through a digital marketplace. Of course, digital tools, and since we're talking specifically about digital tools, it's important, but they don't necessarily replace everything physical. Of course, insurance customers still benefit from talking to an agent or a claims representative when dealing with complex products or transactions. In fact, you see the high percentage of hybrid there. So there's compelling evidence that a strong hybrid offer combined with the best of digital and what you can do for the physical channels results in greater customer loyalty and advocacy. So a customer that uses this hybrid model, chances are, tends to have a higher net promoter score, and based on that, of course, they have higher satisfaction with their insurance. And that loyalty can turn around and definitely benefit your company as a customer that is a promoter of their insurance carrier is worth nearly 7 times the lifetime value of a customer who's a detractor. So if you look at that difference between someone that has a good experience between all of your channels, can definitely give that that positive thumbs up to an insurer is a huge value. And combining and looking at this from the perspective of the new buyer journey, if you look at this here, these are a couple of potential buyer journeys that could happen across multiple different channels. So digitalization is fundamentally affecting distribution strategies and the entire customer journey. So that's from across search for insurance products to after point of sale, services for the policyholder. If you look at these both here, you have someone that potentially does an online search when they're looking for an insurer. They're comparing quotes. They're going through the process of looking at reviews maybe on social or in communities. Only then, at that point, could they potentially talk to an agent and go through that process, buy through the agent, review their services, and they do online customer services, and they go through and continue on through that services. So even though they're talking to an agent, maybe they got a lot of information before they actually got to him, before there was ever discussion that was had from a sales perspective. The same on the other customer journey. So maybe you're doing a targeted advertisement based on retargeting from a website they're on, and that generates a call because they're requesting more information from your website, say. They do a lot of research on the back end. They talk to people that maybe have used you, request further information, and they go and buy online. So they had the exact opposite experience, right? So they started maybe with a different approach. They talked to somebody, and then they just went ahead and purchased online. So these shifts along the buyer journey bring with them new expectations of extremely personalized and customized interaction. So that customer that comes in through an online search and talks to their agent, at that point expects you to understand more about them because they've interacted with you as a company. There's a level of expectation there. The same thing with somebody that maybe talks to somebody online and they go to buy online, they expect that experience to be customized for them. So one of the things that, as we talk about marketing automation, we realize is there's been a shift and there's been an investment in technology in recent years across the industry. But there's still a challenge with developing this highly integrated approach that matches what customers want. So one of the things from a marketing automation standpoint that we can look at is that we're able to take some of these interactions and go from where they're fragmented across these different communication and devices and channels, and provide more of a seamless experience as we use this digital technology and marketing automation and integration with your other systems. So this is a nice little kind of factoid for the U.S. life annuity side of things, just giving you an example of specifically how these engagement points with insurance and intermediaries are changing. So as far as willingness to use digital channels, customers are taking more of their buying journey, as we mentioned, into their own hands. And so from an engagement perspective, across devices and channels, their experience at every touch point needs to be relevant. So not only do we make that journey seamless for them, but we need to make it relevant. So if we look at this, they come from all parts of the sales funnel. If you look at, the top of funnel activities like research, advice through a policy or searching online, to some of the other ones that are specific on there for nurture, where their services, they're looking to inquire, need assistance on their claim. They're moving through that process, and it even goes to when they're ready to renew or they're ready to cancel their policy. So they are using, they're less likely to use digital channels when they cancel their policy, but they still, that still might be easier for them to have that experience that way than, actually talking to somebody on the phone. So quite a wide range of activities there. And I don't want to leave out the fact that producers and agents across that experience are a very important part of digitalization. Digital transformation is just as important for them and for you on behalf of them as to your customers. Agents and brokers need sales tools. They need to access data, and they also need automation to function effectively within the new modern multi-channel model. So in order to provide that seamless experience, they need a portion of the information that you have, or a portion of the information that they have you also need. So there's a functional need across those different channels. I think if we look at kind of the industry and what's available, business status and commission statements are usually on most carrier sites, but there's also some additional opportunities. Several of them lack access to functionality like online applications and e-signatures. They're also interested in tools to track marketing campaigns and internet leads from carriers. One of the studies from LIMRA said that only 16% of carriers are very satisfied with their producers' technology adoption. 55% are somewhat satisfied. So there's a pretty big gap there between what's needed and what people feel is actually there. I think some of the things we look at, are the functions that could potentially be provided to a producer, include coordination of technology infrastructure, which I mentioned, your ecosystem and their ecosystem working in tandem, providing intuitive, simple tools through mobile and web that can help intermediaries save time through customer acquisition process. So, providing them with rates or information on the insurance piece that you have, giving them a portal or a tool where they can access that same information in real time when they're talking to a customer. Also offering the capabilities of marketing automation tools, letting them, have access to customer analytics. How many deals are they closing? Tracking of the marketing campaigns and personalization, how they're doing with their direct marketing versus how you're doing with your direct marketing. And then providing enablement through email, networking and discussion forums. So enhancing communication with your producers, so you can leverage marketing automation to actually talk to your producers and personalize things for them, just like you would your customers, because at the end of the day, they are your customers as well as your end users. So I don't want to take credit for this, but looking at kind of your organization, it's important as we take kind of some of those digital factoids I mentioned before and figure out where the gap is between where you want to be, where your company is, and where you need to go, and how to, kind of close that gap between what your customers expect and what you're actually able to provide. So Bain put together a very simplistic kind of view of where you are in your digitalization process, and just to kind of go over this very briefly, and in your own mind think about potentially what this could be for your company, not necessarily what you feel, because obviously you're here for a reason to find out more. But beginners are still figuring out and experimenting with digital tools. Essentially, they are trying to identify their customers' needs and frustrations. There's still some inability to innovate, just because of older technologies that may be in their insurance firm. Most likely, there's a challenge with siloed data, siloed processes, maybe a conservative culture. Really, the majority of people, or the majority of insurance agencies sit in this bucket. So you see about 60 to 70% of insurance companies in this category, according to Bain. As you kind of move up that digital scale, we look at intermediate, which falls somewhere in the 30 to 40% range of insurance companies. This is really where you start to see, instead of kind of taking a back seat, more conservative siloed data, where you have kind of average infrastructure capabilities. Maybe you're looking at or expanding into the digital realm, but really haven't been able to utilize best practices or go the full mile as far as getting to a one-to-one conversation with your customers. Typically, these firms recognize the importance of digital, but there may be internal challenges to meeting that, or infrastructure needs or processes that need to be developed, and they're more in a nascent phase there. Looking at experts, well, if you're experts, then I'm not telling you anything you don't know. There's very few companies that fall into this category. Of course, USAA and Progressive are two of the ones that are identified by Bain as part of this category. They just have this very connected digitalization. They've recognized the possibilities, and they're able to go through to that extra mile to digital revolution. And typically other people in the industry are benchmarking against them because they see them as kind of the disruptors and the best practices or leaders in the market. So that gives you a little idea, if you want to think to yourself, kind of where you fit within that scale, if you're beginner, intermediate, or expert. As we move through the rest of this presentation, I'll speak a little bit to the beginner side as I talk more generically about marketing automation, but as I get more into the campaigns that you can leverage, I'll start to speak to, as you're looking to launch marketing automation, or maybe you already have marketing automation, how to better leverage it. I'll start talking to that. And the last thing I want to talk about in this section is really, I know as you're trying to put forth maybe marketing or digital plans, there's always a lot of resistance to over communication, and maybe you have customers tell you, oh, I got an email from you every week, but or every day, or every minute, as the case may be. But really, there was a global consumer insurance survey done in 2014. I think this is done every year, but they specifically looked at, as part of one of the points, improving communications across insurance customers. And what they found were, obviously some opportunities for everybody in the insurance agency, whether you're effectively marketing or not. Only about 14% of customers consider themselves very satisfied with their current outbound communications. Another startling thing, if you look, about 44% of customers have had interactions with their insurance. So there's not a lot of back and forth interaction. And one of the other key things that we've talked about before, 36% of customers would consider using email, 23% mobile, 20% video tutorials and guides for a range of interactions. So that opens up kind of, maybe as you're looking to expand or looking across your entire funnel, some opportunities there. One of the biggest things, and I often fight this when you're talking about communications and putting together kind of what your roadmap looks like. About 57% of global insurance customers, and this is across all product types, prefer to hear from the provider semi-annually. And only about 47% receive that level of contact. So really, I think there may be some over communication, but really, I think across the industry, it's more of a myth. So there's opportunities for insurers to reach out to both their customers and their agents, but they may not be doing it just because there's not that level of interaction, right? The customer has only contacted them, in 18 or 24 months. So they're not even following up or sending emails like a USAA does, where they're trying to cross-sell or upsell or some of those other opportunities just to make your customers feel good. So moving it from that, really looking at kind of the background of what's going on with digital, looking at the opportunities for communication. Marketers need tools that can help them meet this type of demand, both digitally and communications-wise. And obviously, marketing automation is something that can help do this. It helps drive timely, segmented marketing campaigns across multiple channels and devices. And it's really a great tool, along with a couple other tools that we won't be talking about today, that can really provide insurance with a great marketing ecosystem. So as I mentioned before, I'm going to talk about marketing automation probably a little bit more generally, and then we'll get into specific information around insurance. I think if we look at it, marketing automation obviously tends to, there's a couple that aren't, but tends to be a SaaS platform, and it's a technology that companies can streamline, automate, and measure marketing tasks and workflows so they can increase operational efficiency and grow revenue faster. And what does that mean? It's a great tool. That's what that means. It can help insurers look to grow through customer acquisition, retention, and cross-selling through a variety of different methods, and we'll talk a little bit more about those in a second. But ultimately, we want to have that customer satisfaction. We want to grow the loyalty of our customers and create promoters and eliminate detractors. So I think marketing automation is a platform for the beginning level of the funnel through the mid-level of the funnel can help you do that. One of the big things is always selling marketing automation. Marketing automation can really be a significant investment if you don't have the platform or you're not leveraging it correctly. There's a platform cost. There's a cost in resources and supporting it from both marketing, sales, and IT perspective. So that's one of the things that usually trips companies up is how intensive IT can be involved in this in the process of marketing automation, and they don't account for that. And often IT is like, oh, we don't work with marketing. That's not our thing. So I think you see a lot of marketing organizations investing in and growing their IT specific staff because they recognize with the marketing ecosystem and marketing automation, you need people that understand that IT side of things. So looking at that, just selling that to the higher ups and what the tool can actually do, I think one of the biggest things, of course, is revenue. It's number one. Some companies, and these are from various sources, but can improve their ROI up to 10 times. And I think that's companies that leverage it across the nurture life cycle. They're able to get great insights from the analytics that they have. They can personalize their content and make it a very specific journey. They can manage their contacts and campaigns. I think one of the biggest things for marketers, a lot of our time is spent on, trying to manage and adjust campaigns, go pull data, put together an email. And if we can operationalize that process, it frees up our time to do more of that, thought and strategy, and develop better ways to communicate and better ways to approach our customer and close them as an opportunity. So from a very high level, just looking at what the tool can actually do, I think I like to use this approach. There's three main kind of silos that what really marketing automation can provide you. A central marketing database, I think, is critical. You can pull in information from your CRM to make sure you're aligned with sales. You can start to collate your customer demographics or customer interactions. You can use it to look at your customer behavior, so you can pull things over from your CMS and look at website behavior in addition to what they're doing on an email, what they're doing on a landing page, or information they're performing on forms. It also gives you the opportunity to better segment and look at, as you create personas or customer journeys, you can have better segmentation, and you can start to get to the level where there's a custom communication for a person. So it's based on all those factors. It's based on what we know about them, what we've learned about them through their behavior, and what we can extrapolate from our other customers. So our other customers tell us a lot about the offers that we can give to future customers and what will work what won't work. From a engagement marketing engine perspective, it can help with creation, management, and automation of marketing processes and conversations across online and offline channels. I think most people utilize email. You definitely take email to the next level as you start to use it as marketing automation. But it's also integrated. So it's just, if you're just using it as an email tool, you're not getting the full approach to marketing automation. Another thing is the analytics engine. So testing, improving, optimizing, that's kind of the core of what we want to do as marketers. So being able to use the analytics engines that are in marketing automation tools can help you make better decisions and help you craft where you need to go as far as, future and how to improve revenue and how to improve your overall, stats across the marketing landscape. So I mentioned several of these as I covered, but I just want to reiterate that marketing automation, there's certain things that it's not, but what it is it's a tool that can help you get to a one-to-one conversation with your customers. It provides relevant and timely communication. It can provide communications across multiple channels and devices. If you have a great integrated ecosystem, channels are not a problem. Devices, responsive design and some other factors here can help with that. You can get very personalized, especially if you have an integrated CMS system. You can start pulling in very specific content and content blocks around your customer personas or your segmentation. And then, as I mentioned, analytics, which is huge. Really, from a capability standpoint, what can you expect? I mean, when you go or look at the marketing automation industry as a whole, and there's hundreds of tools. When I started out 8 years ago in this industry, I had customers that were on, I think, 6 or 7 different platforms at the time, and I will say that only one of those platforms still exists today, and that's Marketo. So there's been a lot of changes in this industry. There's a lot of tools out there. I think ultimately what they provide and what you can look for as you do demos or as you do selection of a tool, essentially at their core, they'll do email marketing, landing pages, they'll help with campaign management. Most of them have scoring tools, so you're able to do scoring and predictive view of your customers to pass to sales. Lead management across a variety of different tools, especially when you're able to integrate it with your CRM. Some of the tools do have social marketing, so a few of them have made great advancements in this, like HubSpot or Act-On. They all have some marketing analytics components. Others have, very, very robust analytics engines. And automation, being able to take this out of your hands where you're having to press a button every day to send out an email or, drive data or upload your data into a file. So that's really the core expectation of a marketing automation system. Moving into marketing automation for insurance. So I wanted to take maybe some of the key points within the insurance funnel and kind of look at where the opportunities are specifically for insurance. And we'll go over a few of those. But, if you're looking for how this specifically can help you, I think compliance is obviously a large part of the insurance vertical and making sure that there's no gaps between marketing, sales, and compliance. So there's ways for insurers to make sure that everyone is signing off on a communication. There's platforms that allow for kind of that interconnected process and help you stay compliant with industry regulations. Another thing is seamlessly integrate with CRM. Just depending on the tool in your CRM system, if you can select a marketing automation platform with whether you have a CRM or vice versa that can seamlessly integrate, then you can get a great, great communication between sales and marketing for when you're defining a lead, when it needs to go over to sales. So they can do more targeted conversations than just simply calling out on a list that may have been to your website. It allows you to manage your funnel, which I just talked about from a handoff process perspective, but also help you qualify, score, and then nurture if they're not ready to buy. Personalize your customer interactions. I think we've talked about this in detail there. Segment. So, you can provide, as I mentioned before, multiple communication streams for intermediaries. You can have a totally different communication stream for your agents, your brokers, and your customers. So you can have very, very targeted communications for each of those channels within your, your entire life cycle. Pass on insights. Again, being able to understand or give that information to sales on what activity that person has. If they're looking at, car insurance, passing that information on to a sales agent is critical, so they're not making a blind cold call. Again, sales enablement tools. This from an enablement standpoint allows insurers to control brands and regulatory compliances. And also, what you can do is through portals and other tools within marketing automation, provide agents with customized collateral and messaging so they can pass on to their end users. Leverage thought leadership. So if there's things that really, as you look at some of the different tools, you're able to do kind of more communications that may not necessarily be pointed towards moving someone along the funnel. So you want to create that kind of relationship with your customers or agents. So some of the communications are more thought leadership or feel good, like, did you know this is going on? Or, here's something that you might want to look on in relationship to what you know about the customer. And if you automate that process, you're not having to, replicate that. It's something that can be done on the back end and just really keep that conversation going on with your customers. Moving on to just looking at this from, sales cycle perspective, a huge part of being able to leverage marketing automation correctly is working with your customer's life cycle. Because essentially, they don't care if your processes on the inside are messed up and, your sales team is not calling out on your leads or, whatever. They only care about what they see that's right in front of them. So defining the right journey is knowing where your customers are and accelerating them as fast as possible through the funnel. And some of the activities that I mentioned prior, obviously some of those things that you can do where you're providing maybe nurture around specific things that you know about the client that aren't geared to moving them through the funnel but can ultimately lead to better customers and advocates. When assessing opportunities to leverage technology and develop a method of effectively engaging with your customers, I think it's essentially, as you look across the sales cycle, it's important to build a plan for both your internal and external channels, and we talked about this, but really looking at what that looks like for both your customers, agents, banks, brokers, whatever those are within your particular sales cycle. Okay, and now I'm going to get probably a little bit more detailed, and we'll have some specific examples, across the insurance buyer's journey. So leveraging kind of thought leadership in the insurance industry, this may look a little bit different for your particular company, but kind of looking at these 6 sales cycles overall from a high-level thought leadership perspective. And what you can do within marketing automation for each of these sales cycles, I think, is important. So what are some of these activities that you can build within marketing automation? So awareness, of course, this is where your customers are, just kind of starting to research your company are more aware of you. So at this point in time, you would do communications around brand recognition. These might be more generic because obviously you don't know anything about that customer at this point. And but it really gives you the opportunity to start information gathering about these people that are at the top of the funnel. As I mentioned, persona building. So if you're doing any kind of persona, or you're starting to look at how you can build personas, you can collect data at this point in the life cycle through your website or other marketing tools that you're looking at, and then start to look at how you convert them to maybe an interest from the perspective where they're requesting more information through a form fill or call. Also, the great thing about marketing automation here is you can test messaging. So if you're doing a very generic email, maybe you have a new product that's launching and you want to kind of get it out to your customer base or potential customer base, you can do A/B testing. A lot of tools offer more extensive testing. You can do A through F testing, but maybe you're not sure about the messaging that's going to resonate. Some tools allow you to send, 10% I want to send message A, 20% I want to message B, and then after a certain amount of time, I just, based on performance, I want to go ahead and send everything with this initial message, which gives you a lot of information about the marketplace. Moving into consideration, once you are able to identify a customer through either a form fill, a call, or some way that they've contacted you, you can start scoring them. And scoring allows you to kind of, figure out what they're interested in, how far along the funnel they are, how ready for purchase they are, and if you need to accelerate them through an activity. And really that's presentation of multiple options and scenarios. So maybe they request more information, and that triggers a set of emails that, based on what you know about your customer set or what you know about your offers, can help close that deal. So a lot of companies during this stage, and most likely you're doing some form of this, whether through your website. You can also do it through marketing automation, is look at cart abandonment. If somebody's filled out or they've gone through a policy process and they've abandoned it at some point, you can recontact them. I think when I'm looking across several of the companies that I've worked with specifically for a cart abandonment type message, you get about 80 to 90%, someone opening that email because they're interested and they're already engaged. Purchase, obviously, a great thing about purchase is they're purchasing from you. They're a known customer. You have their information, but you also can extrapolate from that information how to make that experience better. Have great onboarding, have good contract and contract management at this point. Make the experience as seamless as possible across all of your channels. And then, you can provide trigger communications with policy details, giving them the customer service options when they first come on board. If you have an issue, call this number. That means a lot to customers, just to have that information at their fingertips. Service, this huge part of the insurance agency. So being able to have channels that are available for customers 24/7 is really critical. And this all falls kind of into marketing automation in the perspective that you can start aggregating that information and follow up with customers as needed. You can also access their pertinent service contact information when you have that conversation. So, through things like progressive profiling, you may already have information, so you don't have to collect it from them, and it makes it a lot easier. And sales enablement prompts for low NPS or behavioral red flags. So one of the key things there is if you see somebody maybe clicking on or engaging with something that could be a high turnover behavioral activity, like I need to talk to somebody, and you talk to somebody and they've called or they've emailed or they've contacted you 4 or 5 times, obviously this is a behavioral red flag, and it's an opportunity for somebody to reach out to them, not wait for them to come back to you. Also, as we move down this kind of service profile and look into retain and then into advocacy, you can use this for opportunities for cross-sell, upsell. And as I mentioned previously, like, customers don't feel like insurers are contacting them regularly, so just check in with your customers, maybe things that customers don't necessarily tell you about, but maybe issues, and kind of predicate that harder conversation down the road. Also, you can use your entire digital support infrastructure to speed claims, communicate with your agents, and have kind of a seamless conversation there. And ultimately, if you can get a customer to advocacy, we talked about the 7 times customer value there. It's huge. There's opportunities for incentive, rewards, and providing them, if they're a happy customer, with ways to provide referrals to other customers. Just a little bit more detail about some of that. I wanted to breeze over that, but give you an idea from a strategic perspective on customer acquisition. So the top of that funnel, really what you can leverage marketing automation for is you can start doing an integrated demand generation strategy, so you can manage those leads across website, email, mobile, social, agent portals, and sales tools. You can also use advanced automation analytics to mine for demographic, behavioral, and other data and make extrapolative, kind of communications. And I think one of the things there, looking at developing buyer personas and going through that process, I have on the screen an example of maybe how you would leverage that for an email that goes out. So if you understand more about your customer, you're able to start selling, and cross-selling or providing more information. And you can do, as I mentioned before, progressive profiling, where you're not having to ask for the same information over and over again. You're really doing an additive profile build. So maybe at the beginning of their customer acquisition journey, these emails, as you see on the screen, maybe there's only 3 or 4 different components of it that are interchangeable. But as you move further and have more of a relationship with that customer, you may have 12 or 13 or infinite possibilities on what that might look like. And essentially, if you're able to leverage marketing automation for these types of activities, you can expect increased response rates from those personalized communications. There's a huge difference from generic to personalized. If you say something about them visiting your web page, it's huge, and you get more of a return on your marketing investment. We talked a little bit about this before, reduced time to market. So you can get new offers out very quickly, and you can have them targeted based on an easier way to segment and get them into the market. And then also a quick adjustment on campaigns. So instead of having to redo a process over and over again, you just may make tweaks based on the analytics information you're getting back. Okay, and I know I am running up on time, so I will go ahead and kind of speed through the next couple ones. But from a retention and nurture standpoint, this is really, marketing automation gives a great tool to start doing this. So just being able to do follow-up, being able to do automated regular check-ins, that's really part of what retention and nurture is about. So as you're able to do kind of this advanced nurture cycle through marketing automation, you can start better leveraging loyalty programs. You can start looking at the referrals that I talked about, indicating advocates and really continuing to build that relationship with them. If you're able to do this and leverage nurture, you can improve your loyalty and therefore increase your NPS. And then, from an overall revenue contribution, it's pretty huge. So if you're able to provide targeted communications and you're able to do cross-sell and upsell, which I'll talk a little bit about this, but you can improve your overall customer lifetime value and also provide new revenue streams. As I mentioned before, cross-sell, upsell, I think this is a little bit more self-explanatory, but if you're really, the great thing about this is huge in the insurance industry, but you can start tailoring for what you know about your customers. If you see that they're not interested or they're not clicking through, you can change up the messaging, and that's a very easy process to do. Or even you can look at seasonal campaigns where you offer, flood, wildfire, rainfall, inclement weather. You can start doing cross-sell, upsell messages around that at the appropriate time of year. So it's a very seamless process, and essentially, like I said before, it's higher lifetime value. It's more cost-effective. You can make changes very quickly and seamlessly integrate this messaging across all of your communications. And as I mentioned previously, agents are such an important part of the strategy. So I think there's some key things that we can look at from an agency perspective to help local broker-dealers with marketing automation products. So again, communications that are targeted towards them, their customers too. Doing multi-touch, you can do education, onboarding type campaigns, so giving them the information over a period of time instead of flooding it all at once. So here's all of our information, good luck. You can do check-ins along the way and make sure that they're, they're learning through repetition, but they're also able to digest all that information in small chunks. And they can provide, you can actually provide your agents with information about their customer set, so providing analytics and how they're closing and what opportunities may be available to them in that first initial kind of relation as you build that relationship. Retention, events are huge for agents, so being able to do event marketing through marketing automation, which is a whole probably separate hour in and of itself, but marketing automation is a great tool for event marketing. It's also allows for and helps with account mapping between CRM and marketing automation. And as far as enablement goes, it also provides information or things to agents that allow them to sell, so allow them to close information and get through that. So as I breeze through that really quickly, really from what's the next steps and how do you engage with this? From a marketing automation perspective, very briefly, there's a couple processes that you can go through if you're not with a marketing automation tool. If you want to better leverage a marketing automation tool, there's a whole digital process that you can go through that obviously can help you define what you need to do within marketing automation. So, just looking from a platform selection perspective, if you're kind of in the market for marketing automation, I think there's some few things that you can ask yourself from the capabilities. Do they have the things that you want? If you define what your customer experience is, your customer personas and journeys, are you able to deliver on that based on the capabilities that they have within the tool? Another thing that people don't think through very well is looking at the enterprise systems versus some of the more simplistic systems. If you don't have the staff to actually support some of the more complex systems, it's very difficult. So you end up either being dissatisfied with your system or having to hire somebody to help you with it. So think through that. If you're open to that, that's fine. Obviously, that's our business, so we don't mind that. But yeah, if you're just going to have one person that's working on your marketing automation tool, maybe complexity is not the way to go. Maybe you need fewer features. Do the companies offer training and support resources? What are the size of the tools? What's the cost of the tools? And their service partners, like do they have 1 or 2 service partners or 20 that you can choose from? Very high level, obviously Gartner Magic Quadrant is one direction. I probably have read 20 or 30 that rank the different tools. Obviously Marketo and Oracle and Salesforce are kind of in that preeminent category. Oracle is the only one of those that has an insurance product, and there's a couple of other niche products, but it's really not necessary. You're going to tailor it anyway. They only have like maybe a few templates or other things that you can utilize through that. So just kind of rounding that out, from an dynamic perspective, we partner with a lot of different tools, so we have experience and we can kind of guide you in that process if you need it. If not, I'm always open, or you can contact me if you have any questions about any of what we covered today or any of the tool sets you may be more interested in. We do a wide variety of activities, so I can, if you have the capability to hire an agency, we can definitely help you with that. But if not, then we can kind of guide you in the right direction for what you need to go and help you along there. And that's it.